Hey everybody, it's Melanie Galiotto and welcome to Coming Up Stories podcast. And today I'm here with Victor Cole, a former pitcher in the Major League Baseball, and he's here to tell us his story of where he was, how he found out how it felt for him to be called up to the big leagues.
Hey Melanie, great to be here with you.
Thank you. Great to have you. All right, it's all you. It's all you, Victor.
All right, well, as young baseball players out there in the United States and all around the world, I had a dream when I was 10 years old to be a Major League Baseball player. However, my dream kind of came through some different routes because I wasn't born in a country that was known for baseball. I was actually born in Russia and lived there for 4 years. My father was from Africa and my mother was Russian.
Mm-hmm.
So after 4 years in Russia, we left and went to Africa for 4 years, which doesn't have any baseball in Sierra Leone in Africa. So I had never seen or heard of baseball at the time I was 8 years old. At the age of 8, we decided to hit the Americas and we came to Canada. So I lived in Winnipeg, Manitoba for 2 years where I played hockey and soccer. Still hadn't picked up a glove or a baseball or knew anything about it. So finally, my father was in a car and died when I was 9. So mother, who couldn't go back to Russia at the time, decided to take an interpreter's position at Ohio State University. So that's what brought us to the United States.
Okay.
So that brought me to Columbus, Ohio, at the Ohio State University at the age of 10.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first experience with baseball. I went outside in the summer and I saw kids playing a strange sport with a bat and ball and these leather gloves. And I was like, what's that? And it kind of reminded me of a goalie in hockey because he's got a glove and he catches and he's got a stick. So I was kind of like, okay, it's sort of like that. And I knew a little bit about cricket. So I was like, okay, all right, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
So I just watched. I watched on television. And a few weeks later, I got the nerve to go out there and join the kids. And that's how I learned how to play baseball.
Wow.
And another thing that helped was having the Ohio State University baseball team right around the corner. And I would go down there and watch them play. So I was their ball boy. So anytime they'd hit a foul ball, I would go get it, bring it back. And after the end of the game, when I'd give them back 20 balls, they would reward me with one game ball,
Cool.
my payment for the day. So
Yeah.
I started a little collection of baseballs for my friends back in the neighborhood.
Nice.
So that's how I learned how to play baseball, by watching and playing with the neighborhood kids. But I still did not play on an actual team till I was 13.
13.
Yes. So it was still a couple of years before I actually played on a team. And at 13, we moved to Canada. We moved to California.
Okay.
At 13, and that's when I started my baseball. And baseball there was practically year round because the weather was good.
Yeah.
And so I gradually got better and better and better. And there, my dream of being a professional baseball player really took off. So I ended up being one of the top players in high school, and then going to Santa Clara University, where I got drafted as a junior by the Kansas City Royals. Played 3 years in their farm system, got traded when I was in AAA
Mm-hmm.
in 1991, went to Buffalo with the Pirates. Then in 92, I was in my second year in AAA and doing really well. I was one of the top starting pitchers in all of AAA in that season. I had a record of 6-2 with a 2-something ERA. So I was in the tops in wins and ERA, having a real good year. And a pitcher got hurt in Pittsburg. And so they were calling down, I guess, at that time, looking for a replacement. And I happened to be one of the ones that was healthy and doing well. But here's how I found out.
Okay.
So I had just pitched the game 2 days prior, and I think I got a loss. It was I was 6-1 going in, and I had lost a game, but I pitched really well. I think we lost 2-1 or something,
Mm-hmm.
but I pitched really well. And I just thrown a bullpen, and I noticed the head coach and the pitching coach were watching me throw my bullpen that day. And it's usually only the pitching coach that watches me throw a bullpen, but the head coach was over there watching too. And so I thought, that's a little strange. And so later that night, I had just been married the year before. So my wife and I are at home eating dinner, and I get a phone call. And so I answered the phone. I said, hello, who is this? And he's like, Vic, this is Bombi. And my head coach at the time was Mark Bombard. And I loved him as a coach. I loved playing for him. I'd give anything for him. He had a lot of faith in his players, and he would battle for us anytime we'd get a bad call or whatnot, but loved playing for the guy. We got along great. So he calls me up, he says, Vic, what are you doing right now? And I said, I'm thinking, oh, this is a strange call. I said, oh, I'm just getting ready to eat dinner. And he said, well, dinner's going to taste a little bit better for you after I tell you the news. I said, what news? He said, you're getting called up to Pittsburgh. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? So I'm looking at my wife, and she's like, what's going on? What's going on? I said, Sherry, we're going to Pittsburgh. She's like, wow, are you kidding me? So that started the whirlwind of packing, making plans, and all this stuff. So we just started packing everything we could. We didn't know how long we were going to be gone. So he said, hey, just come in the morning, get your gear. We'll give you your information, and let us know, what are you going to drive or fly or whatnot. And so that was it. That night we couldn't sleep. We were just so excited, calling all the family and friends. And I mean, it was a culmination of all those years of playing as a kid, watching baseball on television, collecting baseball cards, having those moments with your friends where you're imagining being in the big leagues for your favorite team, and hitting in a certain situation. All right, game's tied, bottom of the ninth, full count, and here's the pitch. You're going through all those things as a child, and same thing as a pitcher. All right, you got 2 strikes on the hitter, and last out of the game, and all those moments that I had just came flooding back to me, and culminating in a call to the leagues.
Wow.
And so that was incredible. That was absolutely incredible. And getting there, it was really quite different than all the minor league years combined. The minor leagues and the major leagues are like 2 different worlds. It's the same game, talented players at both levels, but in the major leagues, it's every player there is really, really good. Even the 24th or 25th guy on the bench is really, really good. I mean, better than you could imagine as a minor leaguer. And it was just a shock to see how good they were, how consistent they were, how easy they made it look. And it was just there.
Now you're there with them.
And I'm there with them. So at first it's like overwhelming, but then after about a week or two, you kind of settle in and go, you know what? I belong here too.
Awesome.
And you kind of adjust to it, and you start feeling like, hey, yeah, I can do this just like they can. Of course, there's still the superstars like the Barry Bonds and the Doug Drabecks and all the guys that are, going to be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, they're at a really high level. But as with everyone else, you're just like, yeah, I belong here just like them. I can throw just like they do. I have pitches just like they do. I can hit like they do. And you realize also there's a lot of guys in the minor leagues that can play here too. Yeah. And it kind of lets you know that there's not a huge difference between the players, but what's different about the major leagues is how the players deal with the pressure.
Yeah.
Both from the fans, the media, the ownership, to perform at that level day in and day out. It's like being a performer as well. You're like a professional entertainer, and that's where that's a different type of pressure, where you have to be on your A game every single day because you're accountable for it, because the press is watching, the press is going to be interviewing you, the games are televised.
Yeah.
There's 50,000 people at the stadium watching every day. There's a bunch of guys in the minor leagues waiting for you to mess up so they can come and take your job.
Yeah.
There's a pressure of performing to your expectations because you're getting paid so much more money than you were before. So there's all these little pressures. And then also your family and friends, you're trying to make them be proud of you and live up to their expectations of you and all that. So it's a different type of expectation from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that stay there for a long time are the ones that can block all that out and just focus on the game itself. And that's extreme. That's one of the most it sounds easy, but that's one of the hardest parts. And that's one of the things about the mental game of baseball that really comes into play is the hardest part is being able to block all that out and just focus on hitting the ball, throwing the ball, and catching the ball. The three basic things in baseball, but there's so much more that you have to block out that's really the hard part. The physical part's easy, but you have to eliminate the mental stuff, the mental blocks in order to make the physical easier, especially at that level.
It's a lot of noise, not just, like you said, like the fan noise, but all that internal noise that, just being a human, it's hard to stop that chatter.
Yes.
So I would need an insane amount of focus and concentration.
And for me, that hit me full bore my first outing. I had waited 6 days to get the ball in a game, and I was a starter the whole year leading up to that point. So it'd been 2 months as a starter, and then now I was a reliever again. And I'd been a reliever before in the minor leagues, so it was not that big a deal. But 6 days of anticipation building up, and then finally I get the call in a game that the score was out of reach anyways. We were down by 5-6 runs late in the game. So it wasn't like I was being called into a tight game or anything, but it was just all the feelings, all the emotions were just bursting out of me when I was going out there. To this day, I can't remember a single pitch that I threw.
Yeah.
And I think I pitched an inning and 2/3 or something like that, but I can't remember anything on that day. I can remember all my other outings, but I can't remember throwing a single pitch in that day. All I can remember is running in from the bullpen, and then everything else goes dark. It was incredible. And it was like, all I can remember is I'm here, I'm there, I'm actually doing this.
Yes. And
that's all I remember. I remember sitting in the dugout after it was all done going, wow, it's over. But in between, I can't think back. I can't remember, I can remember certain hitters like that I've faced 20, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember for instance, if I run across a player that I played against 20, 30 years ago in college or in the minor leagues, and I'll see him at a ballpark somewhere, I'll go, yeah, I remember you, hey, remember the curveball I threw you in Nashville or in Birmingham or something like that? And you're like, oh man, that was a great pitch. I didn't know what, I can remember those little things, but that first game against the New York Mets, I can't remember a single pitch. It's crazy. But I remember all my other starts, all my other relief appearances. Yeah. But that start, people ask me all the time, what was it like? It's like, I remember the lead up to it. And I remember the sitting down afterwards in the dugout.
Your brain is protected. It was probably like such an incredible feeling that's your brain is protecting you by just kind of, all right, let's save it a little bit. Let's take it down a notch.
And because for me, it meant so much more than maybe what it does for other people, because I was an underdog coming up because of my background.
Yeah.
And not having any family members in baseball, not having anyone train me in baseball, just basically picking it up from the neighborhood kids and watching it on television and going to some college games and watching the guys play there and getting to that level without any coaching. And really, I never had a really good coach that would teach me in pitching. Everything I got from pitching was watching on television and basically mimicking the mechanics and the styles of my favorite pitchers. So one of my favorites is Nolan Ryan. Mm-hmm. So I just pretended in my mind that I was Nolan Ryan when I was pitching. So I of course, I never developed into throwing 100 miles an hour like he did, but I reached the speeds of 94, 95 miles an hour for my size. I'm 5'10", and I was 160 pounds at the time. And so for someone of my size at that time in the 90s, that was a pretty big feat to be able to throw that hard. But that was because of watching Nolan Ryan's mechanics, having the leg kick, and trying to, I bought his pitching Bible. So I followed his workout program that was in the Nolan Ryan pitching Bible. And those are the only things I had all the way up through college and in the minor leagues. And finally in the minor leagues, that's when I really started getting some good pitching coaches from guys like Guy Hansen, Spin Williams with the Pirates. Who else? Marty Demerit with the Cubs. Those are like three of my most favorite pitching coaches, and I really learned a lot from those guys. And I was able to take my pitching to a different level thanks to those guys. And now that I'm a coach, I take a lot of the things that they gave me and I give those back to the young kids that I come across. And after I stopped playing, I played for 15 years, 10 years after I left the big leagues. And after I got done playing, I became a coach. And I got to tell you, Melanie, I've had a lot more fun, more passion, and more rewarding experiences as a coach than I did as a player. And it feels like there's a big, because I can reach a bigger audience, I can reach more people. And to me, it means more to make, let's say, 5 kids become better pitchers than just me getting better. Because just me getting better, it's selfish, and I'm really not affecting anyone.
Right.
Unless someone's watching and learning from me. But with me giving to other kids what I've learned and sharing my experiences that might be some of the same as theirs, like they may be going through a problem with control, for instance. And I said, you know what? I've been there. This is what I did. And then to watch them overcome that because of the information I gave them, it's really rewarding for me, because it's like, it answers to me. That's why I went through what I went through, to be able to pass it along and help others who are going through the same thing. Otherwise, they may just run across a brick wall and not get through that.
Yeah.
But here I am, and I did the same thing with my son. His whole time coming up through little leagues and travel ball, high school, college, and now he's playing professionally in Germany. He'll call me all the time. Hey, Dad, I'm going through this. And it's like every time he goes through something, I've already been there. And I'm able to give him the right advice to help him cross that hurdle. And that's really rewarding for me. And it lets me know, hey, you know what? I went through all those hard times for a reason. There were times where I had control problems. There were times where my arm hurt. There were times where, I was getting hit hard and had to bounce back mentally to keep fighting. So, and at the time you think, why am I going through all this? Why is this happening to me? Why can't I just throw a no-hitter every time I go out? But now, 20, 30 years later, I see, I went through all that because the real reward in all this is to be able to pass it on.
I love that so much. Now, I have bigger chills now than when you told me your original story. Like that, that really is it.
Yeah, that's what it's all about to me. Yeah.
So when you're helping the kids with the different aspects in coaching, do you talk about the mental game and how to focus and try to turn that all off? Like, are there tricks? Do you use deep breathing or like mindful meditation? Anything?
Yes, it depends on the how advanced the kids are. So for instance, if I'm talking to 10-year-olds, I have to be really basic. Okay, I have to give real clear visual things like all I see, like for what a 10-year-old's going through, their chatter is going to be moms and dads in the stands, yelling and screaming, possibly some crazy dads climbing on the fence as their kids out there, and when the umpire misses a call or something like that, so things like that is what they have to block out, or maybe the other team saying something that might get on their nerves, and just blocking it out and just seeing, just blocking it out and seeing a wall of black. Just keep it real simple. And I'll give them that as an example that I used. But then I'll tell them, I'll say, hey, look, all of you are individuals. You all have different mental skills. Some of you can visualize better than I can, some of you not as good. So you have to get something that works for you, that is yours, that you can rely on, that you can make work for you. And that really works for them, because then they're not trying to do something that they can't,
Right.
but they can actually do something that's attainable for them and implement it. And also, there's going to be some kids that I come across that are way more advanced than me. I have no idea to know how advanced and how brilliant they're going to be. So I don't want to do anything that limits them either. So I give them the room to grow and to create on their own something that's theirs that they can use. Because there's kids that there was a kid that I coached that came up with my son. He's already pitched more major league innings than I ever had. So, and so that's one of those examples where it's like, here I was coaching a kid who's now had more big league time and more wins than I did, and I was his coach. So, but there was no way of knowing that going in. So I had to give them that rope to expand and to get better on their own, because they could be better than I was, hopefully, or they may never get there, but they'd have the learning experience from me to be able to pass it along and do the same thing with their kids or whoever they were coaching, or and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Absolutely. Nice. Yeah. So we talked about coaching. You're doing a lot of coaching. What's now look like for you? What are you doing now?
Well, I just got done 2 years of high school coaching. I loved it. It was great. And then I got an opportunity to go to Russia, believe it or not, to coach their national team. And that was one of those things, the experiences that come full circle, because that is where my story starts.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go back and say, okay, what can I do here in the country that I was born in? And so that was a wonderful experience, going back to a country where I understood the language. Going back there, for most people, if you're not Russian, you hear people speaking in the streets and it's a foreign language. But for me, that was my first language. That's the language my mother spoke in. So going back there and hearing Russian in the streets, it was a familiar sound to me. Eating the food there was a familiar taste, because my mother used to cook Russian food all the time. So seeing the Russian people was familiar, because my mother was Russian. So there were a lot of people that looked like her. So, of course, me being different on the outside, I didn't really focus. I mean, of course, I was different to them, but for me, looking out at them, things seemed very, very familiar to me. So it was a very interesting and educational experience, going back and dealing with the young kids there, and also the young men on the national team, and kind of sharing what I had experienced and trying to get them to the next level. And I was able to take my son there with me. And he actually got naturalized there. So now he has 2 citizenships, one here and one there. And he plays for the national team. So he's got that experience to put on his belt. And he's enjoyed it as well, and learned the language. So now he's learning about some of his heritage through that experience. But the clock ran out on that based on COVID. COVID kind of canceled a lot of tournaments that we had planned, and so then it was time for me to come back here. And now that I'm back here, it's I think my next step was probably to go coach collegiately. I think would be the next step. I was thinking about coaching in the professional leagues, but I think for the next couple of years, I want to coach collegiately.
Yes.
And I think to me that seems like a really good fit. I think right now, with the age of those players, I think I could give a lot to them, because I've been there and I know what it takes to be not only successful at the collegiate level, but also to get to the next level.
Yes.
And so I think I could really help those kids at that position.
I can't wait to hear more about that soon. Let's hope.
Thank you.
Well, Victor, wow. Blown away. Thank you so much for sharing. What a full circle journey. Tons of amazing experiences.
Yes.
And I love the fact that you're just giving it all back to kids and watching them grow and succeed. It's just really, I can't even talk because I'm just so,
Yeah,
I'm so
yeah,
excited from everything
yeah.
that I've heard. It's just, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it is rewarding to see them go on to
Mhm.
get college scholarships and
Yeah.
get drafted, and a couple of them have made to the big leagues and things like that. I mean, it's really, really rewarding to say, yep, I coached him, and yep, I coached him, and
Thinking of,
it's amazing. It means more now to be able to do that than me making it myself, because like I said, it was personal. It was, you know,
yeah,
it was kind of selfish to be glad that you did it, but it means so much more when others can get there too.
making an impact and seeing it happen for others. I
Yeah.
get that. I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thanks for inviting me to this
You're
podcast,
welcome.
Melanie.
All right. And I can't wait to see and hear what happens with your next step.
Me too. Me too.
Coaching some college ball.
On to the next adventure.
On to the next. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.